Mogis, God of Slaughter. So we have another anti-deck tech video. It's been a while since I've done this, and I've been asked a few times to do various gods. I guess people were feeling it with Amonkhet, and one of the ones that came up was Mogis. And I thought it was pretty interesting because I don't really see that many Mogis decks. So I have run into a few, but not that many. And the one underlying theme was that they're really enchantment heavy, and a lot of people don't, for some reason, prepare for enchantment. So I want to give a kind of a high level overview on what you can do to, protect yourself against a Mogis player. And as always, with these deck tech videos, these aren't made, you're not going to stack your whole deck with every card that I mention. Furthermore, you're probably not going to just run this card that I mentioned or a bunch of cards that I mentioned into a deck, go into a tournament hoping to face a Mogis player. The real goal of these videos, I'm casual. I'm a casual player. I'm casual filth is what it is. But more than that, it's when I go somewhere and I have a dedicated play group and there's always that one player that plays the same deck and they think they're hot shit. So I always want to, take them down a peg. So I'll sometimes slot in some stuff that really goes against their deck, or just in general, if I've noticed that there's a strong presence by an overarching and over appearing, or what would you say, a frequently appearing, not over appearing. Mogis, God of Slaughter, isn't the most intimidating general that you could face looking at him at first glance. He's got the typical indestructible, and he requires some devotion to turn on as a creature, but that's not really what does it. Even his ability at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, Mogis deals 2 damage to that player unless he or she sacrifices a creature. That in itself isn't that bad. You can take the 2 damage, or if you're running a token-based deck, you can sack a creature. Not a big deal. But it's the cards that come with him, like the cards that a lot of people play, that cause him to be a strong general, or at least his deck to act strongly. And as I mentioned, this deck will take advantage of a lot of enchantment cards. But there are also some strong creature cards. The deck's variations can go on and on. One thing that is true I have found is enchantments are there and they're going to be punishing. So that's one thing I want to focus on. The other thing is creatures that, while they won't be populous, they will be hitting hard. So Master Cruelties is a good example. So how do we combat these 2 major things that you would see? Well, one thing is to target the enchantments, so not necessarily target as a target spell, but you want to zone in on those cards. A great way of doing that is a card, Absolver Thrall. So this is a common from way back during the first Ravnica block, and it's an overcosted 2/3, but when it enters the battlefield, it destroys an enchantment. Another great thing is that it has Haunt, so when this card is put into a graveyard from play, you can remove it from the game instead, and it can then destroy another enchantment. So you get some value, and you get to sacrifice a creature if you need to. So it makes it so that it saves you 1 sacrifice or 2 life, and gets rid of another enchantment. There's also another card called Ally, which destroys target enchantment, and it has a buyback of 3. So it does cost theoretically 5 and then 7 mana to use the ability twice. But if you find yourself with a close to empty hand, and then you just want to have something in hand, this is not a bad card to have because of the recursion ability to just keep destroying enchantments. Another one is Aurra Mutation. So Aurra Mutation allows you to destroy an enchantment, and then you can create X/1/1 green sapling creature tokens where X is that enchantment's converted mana cost. Again, it allows you to get rid of an enchantment, and you're going to create a bunch of tokens that you could then use to sacrifice during various points where you are instructed to. Aurra Silence is actually really good in this deck because enchantments and artifact spells your opponents cast cost 2 more. You're not only hitting this enchantment heavy player, but if you're playing multiplayer, will hit other players as well. Now this will be seen as a hate card, so it might draw the ire of other players, but generally if the Mogis player starts running away with it, your other players will usually let it slide. Also, you could sacrifice it to destroy target artifact or enchantment. So this is a really good situation where, let's say you've got a card like Karavik out, against you, and you don't want to cast one of your spells that cause you to destroy enchantments, well, you can then just sacrifice this, so you're not paying any life. It's already out on the field. Aurra Shards is also a good one. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment. This card is usually, in my playgroup at least, killed on sight, so it's destroyed from whatever way. We actually play a lot of artifact and enchantment removal in my playgroup, so this doesn't stay very long. Back to Nature is great if you just want to wipe the whole playing field of enchantments. There isn't that much play that's seen around this card. Not that many people include it, but I thought it was worth mentioning because it is an uncommon, fairly easy to get, so if you are running on a budget, this might be a card for you. Cleansing Meditation allows you to destroy all enchantments, but if you have Threshold, and you most likely will if you're sacrificing creatures or just playing against black-red, those are the two colors that really like to destroy things, so chances are you will be able to activate Threshold, and instead of destroying all enchantments, you're destroying all enchantments, but then returning to play all cards in your graveyard that were destroyed this way. Collective Effort is also really good in the sense that you can destroy an enchantment, and if you tap a untapped creature that you control, you can then do one of the other abilities. In most cases, I'll be doing a destroy target creature with power 4 or greater, so like an Obnilixis or the Sire of Insanity. Those are the two cards that I'm probably going to be targeting with this. Fracturing Gust is another card. This is actually a really good card, destroying all artifacts and enchantments and then gaining extra life for each of those permanents destroyed can lead to a huge amount of life gain in Commander. And the reason that this is actually relevant is if you're being drained life and red-black is looking at really pinging you, having a life gain embedded into this card while also destroying their stuff is a double whammy. It allows you to recoup a bit of life you probably lost during the course of the game. Now, definitely, it's not a viable tactic to just say, I'm going to gain a bunch of life to combat his pinging me, but the fact that you're destroying all artifacts and enchantments and you're getting life, that extra bonus is worth probably the extra mana that was tacked on for the cost of this, because I'd readily pay 4 mana to destroy all artifacts and enchantments. And then there's Hull Breach. Hull Breach is a pretty common card. Destroying target artifact and enchantment is usually the mode I use, so that's something that is beneficial, of course. Leave No Trace is also a really good one, so you're destroying target enchantment and each other enchantment that shares a color with it. So if you're not playing red-black, you're really laughing because you're getting rid of either all the red enchantments or all the black enchantments on the board. And again, Mogis will be using red and black enchantments. Like, this is a given. If you encounter a deck that doesn't, they're not building the deck properly. I have to mention Naturalize. It's a great card. For 2 mana, destroy an artifact or enchantment at instant speed is good enough for me. I'll definitely include this. Paraceline is also a great sorcery where you're destroying all enchantments and you're gaining life for each enchantment destroyed this way. So your life gain won't probably be that big, especially compared to Fracturing Gust, but it's something that you can use to just give you some type of redundancy in your deck. Seal of Cleansing and Seal of Primordium are 2 cards that I also include simply for the reason of being able to destroy the artifact or enchantment but not having to use a spell right off the bat to do it. So it acts as a kind of, you put it out there early and the Mogis player will have to deal with this card before they can really play any other bumps. So it might delay them from playing a really good enchantment if they don't have the removal for this card. So they might, if they want to play Painful Quandary, they might not be able to, or if they might play like Mana Barbs. Mana Barbs is quite the annoying card, but let's say they do play Mana Barbs. You can then use this ability and not have to pay any mana or tap any land. So you get rid of that, because tapping land and doing 1 damage doesn't seem that bad until you start needing to tap like 10 land at a time. You then realize that, hey, I should have gotten rid of that Mana Barbs a bit earlier. Spring Cleaning is also another one where you can destroy an enchantment, you clash, and if you win, you destroy all enchantments the opponents control. So your opponents, not just the one opponent. So if you're playing multiplayer, this is a great card. But again, it's not a card that is reliable, because sometimes you won't be able to win the clash and then it's just destroying a regular enchantment. But again, the cost is not bad for that. Trayvis Charm is a card that is really versatile. It allows you to destroy an enchantment, or it could exile an attacking creature. So let's say you're keeping this in hand, you don't really know what to destroy, then all of a sudden that player, that Mogis player, plays that oh so beautiful Master of Cruelties, well, now you can exile and get rid of it altogether. That's something that I'm definitely a big fan of. So that versatility that's built into this card, it works to your advantage here. Another card I like to use is Capsize, so having the buyback similar to what I explained for the other buyback card. I like to include Karn Liberated in pretty much all my decks, but here he is really useful because a lot of the abilities of this deck will cause you to sacrifice creatures or discard cards, and having Karn out on the battlefield, the only way he's really going to get taken out is unless they attack Karn directly or they have some form of planeswalker removal. Exiling permanents and getting around that whole indestructibility that maybe one or two creatures might have is a great way of going. It is an expensive card and it will be killed on sight, but it does eat up your opponent's removal at least, so that's not bad. Austere Command is also a really good card because choosing two different effects and it being modular can really allow you to play this card in very different circumstances. So destroying all artifacts or destroying all enchantments or destroying all creatures with converted mana cost 3 or less or 4 or more. So most likely it will probably be destroy all enchantments and destroying all creatures with converted mana cost 4 or greater. That's a way I could see this going about because there are a lot of creatures with 4 or greater mana costs, so it's hitting those cards like Obnilixis, Archfiend of Depravity, and Kaervek. So again, this is a really great card. I would highly suggest it. And then if you just want to reset the board completely, All is Dust is obviously great in that each player sacrifices all colored permanents he or she controls. So getting around indestructibility and also getting around protection from colors if they have it. So again, resetting the board is all fine and dandy, especially if the Mogis player has kind of blown his load and thrown everything out onto the battlefield already, thinking he was going for the win. Put him in a really good position. You can put yourself in a good position to win. Final Judgment somewhat similar in that you exile all creatures from the game. So if you aren't playing that many creatures or you just happen to not have a lot of creatures out on the battlefield because Mogis' abilities have all stacked up and has left you with a barren board, you now have the opportunity to return the favor. And those are the main principles of how I would play against this deck. So whether it is making sure to get rid of these threats, these big bombs of creatures, or even some of the other gods and so on. So just getting around a lot of those big threats, but furthermore, getting rid of enchantments. Enchantments, I can't stress it enough, is what this Mogis player should be running. So getting those off the battlefield is your priority before it really starts to get out of control. One enchantment might not be an issue. Two enchantments, maybe it gets a bit annoying. Get the 3-4 enchantments on their side, and it's going to whittle you down pretty fast. So there you have it. If you have any other suggestions or any other cards that you've used to counteract Mogis, please make sure to let me know in the comments because I would love to hear them. And really, it's about finding the cards that you like to play with, and don't say, hey, this is the ultimate list. I'm going to just put all these cards in here and I'm going to beat my friend who happens to play a Mogis deck. It might not really happen. You gotta build a good, well-rounded deck. So make sure you got a mana curve there. Include your own bombs. Don't just go all out. A lot of mistake I see people making is they include a bunch of cards to hose somebody else, but they don't really have any cards to advance their game. So not being able to advance your game will just mean you lose the game eventually, whether that's to another player, to the Mogis player rebounding, or maybe just drawing your whole deck out and, wasting 2 hours of your life. So remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are definitely other cards out there. I just wanted to highlight some of the cards that I would use to go against some of the main tactics that a Mogis player would employ. Please let me know what else you have in store or what you guys use to play against certain decks. And also let me know what other anti-deck tech videos you would like to see in the future. In the meantime, if you'd like to check out some other videos, you can do that right there. And if you'd like to subscribe, you can do that right there. It not only helps the channel out, but it lets you know when we upload new content. I'd like to thank you for making me a part of your day. And until next time, good gaming.